So this is about my fourth talk at a G4G. My first one was at G4G7 when I actually spoke about word squares and Scrabble words because I'm a competitive Scrabble player. But after that, I've since then always talked about something called Go First Dice. This was a mathematical set of dice that was first suggested to me by a game designer, James Ernst, back in 2010. And he asked if I could come up with a set of dice that met the following conditions. I'll just read these aloud, and we'll demonstrate some in just a second. First, when you roll these sets of dice, these are supposedly to see who goes first in the game, which usually people just grab a six-sided die, roll, but you might tie. So he said, I don't want ever to be ties, because if you ties, you have to re-roll, and that could waste time. So no ties, and you want every possible ordering of the players to come up to be an equal chance, meaning that regardless of who grabs which die, they'll always have an equal chance of being first, second, or third. And even a little bit stronger than that, permutation-wise, the possibilities of a particular permutation or ordering of the players is always equal. So I talked about that, I believe in 2012, because at that point, I'm going to give you a history. This talk today is supposed to be a history of how these dice have advanced. By that point, 2012, I had a couple examples of dice. So here is a set of 3 six-sided dice, which would be called Go First dice, Go First set. If you roll these, if all 3 of them are rolled, the chance that blue is high, or say green is high, red is middle, blue is low, that is just as likely as any other permutation that might come up. It also holds true, you can quickly argue this, if you just take any 2 and roll them off against one another, then either one of these 2 has a half chance of being the high die. Here, each one has a 1/3 chance and so forth. There's a lot of subtleties here I'm going over very quickly because I now only have 4 minutes left. So that was in 2012. Not only did we have a 5-die or a 3-die 6 set, but a friend of mine, Dr. Robert Ford, who attended the G4G a few years ago, he had also come up with a set of 4 12-sided dice that work. By the way, the easiest way to avoid having ties, of course, is just to distribute different numbers across all the dice. So these 4 12-sided dice have the numbers 1 through 48 distributed across them in a way such that obviously there will not be ties, but the tricky part is putting the numbers in the right places on the right dice so that if these 4 dice are rolled against one another, each person has exactly a 1/4 chance of going first. If any 3 are rolled against each other, then they have exactly a 1/3 chance of going first. If any 2 are rolled against one another, it's exactly 1/2 chance. And actually stronger probability than that, something called permutation fairness, meaning that any of the possible 4 orderings, permutations of the orderings of players are equally likely to come up. This is non-trivial to figure out. Dr. Ford had figured this out by hand as of 2012. That was the first talk I gave. In 2018, I had advanced this in a couple ways. First, I had realized that the dice don't all have to be the same size. And here's a set of 5 dice that work. Now, this is actually an improvement over what I'd shown 2 years ago or whatever. In that set, the largest die had 72 faces, which this was an improvement because this is just 54 faces. Although it's not a very pretty die, it does work as a die. This one is 36 faces, this is 20, and these 2 are each 48 faces. I 3D printed these myself and made them. The different shapes and different number of faces I kind of like, but other people would prefer all the shapes have the same, or all the dice have the same number of sides. That's a big problem. We're trying to get 5 players now. We had a 4-player set, we're trying to get 5 players. Well, some improvements have been made since then. Bram Cohen, who is in attendance here today, right over there, he recently discovered this 5-player set. 4 of them are the same size, 4 36-sided dice, and a 20-sided die. That is permutation fair, the strongest level of fairness. In the meantime, a fellow in Australia named Dr. Michael Purcell contacted me and said, hey, I've seen your website. There was a video number file about this actually after he came because he had discovered a set of 5 120-sided dice. These are all the same size, same shape. So we would call these homogeneous dice. 5, and this was the best we had for 5 players. So compare that to the 4 12-sided dice. Now 5 120-sided. And then what got me to sign up and make sure I came to speak at this G4G is just a few months after that, it was discovered 5 60-sided dice. And this is the best result that has been found. These have actually been now mass-produced by Dice Lab, who has a booth up in the or out in the exhibitors hall. So if you want a closer look at these, including a slightly better explanation, you can look at those. And if you want to talk to me more about these, feel free to do so, because I really rushed through a lot of that. But I'm down to 10 seconds. So that's it. Thank you very much.